You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back in business, back to break down the crazy madness that is the world of options, back to kick off our broadcast week here on the network. Yes, it is time for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. Usually your bi-weekly dose. This week, you only get one because, of course, we got the truncated holiday trading week. So no shows on Thursday and no shows on Friday. I'm not going to be a monster, make folks come in after the holiday and try to get in with only a partial trading day. Not a monster. Not going to do that to these folks. So we're going to have a couple days off here at the end of the week. You guys can hang out, see your family, eat some turkey, and hey, maybe get some sweet Black Friday deals there while you're at it. We won't judge. And of course, however you listen live after the fact, keep sending in those questions, those comments, those insights, those pearls of wisdom. If you like what you hear, of course, keep reviewing. We do love to hear it. It's amazing to see all the feedback we get from you guys. We really do love it. We do appreciate it. It helps us inform the shows going forward, so keep it coming. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, theoptionsinsider.com/secret club. That's the place to go to learn more about joining the coolest secret club, but dare I say the only secret club in the world of options. And now it's time to commence. And you know how we do that. Even on this truncated holiday week, we're not going to deny you the fun, the joy that is now the hallmark of the Option Block program, which is our kickoff episode, which is, can you name that 80s wrestler? All right. Keeps going that way for a while. We're going to cut it off there. This one may sound familiar to your listeners because it is a bit of a return appearance. It's a second swing at the bat for these folks. These guys had a hard time with this one. The first time, that's one of the reasons. The second reason is, I'll get to that in a second as to why I decided to bring this one back for some fun second attempts, a second swing at the bat here. Let's go around the horn now. let's start out in the hinterlands of St. Charles, because I know our other person will probably have a hard time with this one. To the land of St. Charles we go, a.k.a. the newest star blowing up the YouTube's good old Mike TOSAW. Give him a follow on the old Twitters as well, at Mike TOSAW. And Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, A, welcome back to the program, and B, can you name that bit of wrestling tunage, sir?
Oh, I got to admit, this one's kind of tough. I don't know who this is. Thank you for the welcome back. It's always good to be here on this festive week we have. And I have my annual special futures Thanksgiving trading advice that I'll give out at the end of the show. But for right now, I'll go with the Rougeau brothers.
Wow. The Rougeau brothers. That's a deep cut. You think I would do that to you? Maybe down the road a bit. I don't know if we're at the Rougeaus quite yet. Let's go out now to the land of the rockingest of lobsters, a.k.a. Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI, beaming in from his fortress-like compound on the shores of Maine. You know, listeners, by now, if you've been listening at all, that not exactly the most in tune to the subculture that was 80s wrestling. But Mr. Rock Lobster, A, welcome back to the program, and B, I think sounds like you want to swing at this one, so have at it, sir.
Well, you know what? It sounds vaguely Ghostbustery to me, this thing.
All right. Sure, why not? So go with it.
Was there any kind of ghost-like or ghosting type characters in wrestling back then?
The most ghost-like guy I can think of would be like The Undertaker. And we did him a few weeks ago.
Oh, we did the Undertaker.
I'm trying to think of another ghost. I can see what you're going for, though. He does have a bit of that 80s kind of pop synth to it.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like it has to be some kind of cream puffy wrestler. So I just don't know which one that would be. But if there is such a thing,
wrestler.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't know.
I am sending you guys an email now. You'll see it. I can't post it in the chat just now because it's on a separate system. But I'm sending you guys both an email with a photo as to why I chose this, because this was actually our old friend Brutus the Barber Beefcake getting a second spin at the Uncle Mike. Does that surprise you now, Uncle Mike, that was Brutus the Barber?
It does not. It's very much. I know all about Brutus Beefcake, but apparently I didn't know his theme music. So once again, it just shows this is really a tough game.
It is a tough game. People have been writing it. They really do love this game, so we're going to keep it going. It's fun. A real quick aside as to why I chose this for this week. I mentioned before my son, big wrestling fan. He loves all the eras. And I've obviously taught him the 80s, because when he wanted to get into wrestling, that's what I knew. So that's the first thing I told him about, Hogan, Macho Man Warrior, all the good stuff from the 80s. He since have gotten into the modern people, your Cenas and your Seth Rollins and all that stuff. As I mentioned, there is that local company, Pro Wrestling Tees, that handles all of the kind of merchandising for pretty much all of the wrestlers in the country. All the big pro wrestlers use them. And so if you want an official, whatever, Stone Cold or whatever shirt outside of the WWE, you go through these pro wrestling guys. And so they have a cool crate you can sign up for, and it comes every couple of months. And so we got him this ages ago. So every couple of months he gets a cool crate from them, and it's got all kinds of signed photos and items, and it's all official merchandise from the people. They're all involved in it. They, or maybe their estates if they're past tense now. And so it's all official merchandise from the different wrestlers. And this past crate he ended up, hey, Dad, look at this. You're going to like this. And so he gave it to me, and it was an official, Uncle Mike, an official. I can see I sent you a photo of it. Brutus the Barber Beefcake grooming kit. And so I'm looking at it right now. It's got like nail clippers, tweezers, all kinds of stuff you would expect in a grooming kit, but it is officially licensed. Brutus the Barber. Mr. Uncle Mike, how jealous are you of me right now and the quality grooming that I'm going to enjoy for many years to come, sir?
My Lord tells me to not covet things, but I got to admit, I'm struggling with this.
You covet that. I guarantee you covet that. The only thing it's missing...
I'm struggling.
The only thing it's missing is a giant pair of shears. That would have been an awesome bit of grooming, too.
Yes. I love those shears he'd come to the ring with.
So, yes, I am a lucky fellow. I sent you a photo of both of it so you can see. Maybe I'll post it on my Twitter or something so you folks can see it, too. So that was the inspiration. My quality grooming going forward. Thanks to Brutus the Barber Beefcake himself.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for The Trading Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to The Trading Block. It's not all Brutus the Barber Beefcake. It's a lot of Brutus the Barber Beefcake on the Monday show, but it's not all Brutus the Barber. Coming into Showtime we're seeing some interesting markets. You know, we got our boy back. We got Powell back. You may like that. You may hate that. But at least there's some certainty for the market. You think that would maybe lift markets, get rid of that Fed uncertainty at least? Of course, obviously, it depends on your viewpoint of Powell. We are living through an era of rampant inflation, which many could point at least some blame for at his door. But that's a conversation for another day. We got Powell back. The markets are mostly rallying, but not all. We're seeing the Dow coming into showtime up nearly 0.6%. That's leading the charts to the upside. The S&P kind of lagging behind, only up about 1/3%. NASDAQ saying, I'm going the other way. I'm off about 0.6%. So kicking off the show, we had VIX closing in on 18.5. That's up nearly 1.5 points from this time last week. VVIX was at about a 115.5. That's up about 0.5 point. So kind of unched from our last show. VXX was at about a 20 3/4. It puts it up about 1/4 from this time last show. UVXY also up about 1/4 to about a 1560 or so. And VolQ was up about 1.25 points to about a 19. So a little bit more froth on the docket there from a vol perspective. Interesting, especially given the fact that we're heading into a truncated holiday week that usually tends to clip the vol pretty aggressively, but not at least today. Let's go around the horn. Neither of them got it, but at least Mr. Rock Lobster, he went with the ghost busting theme, so at least he's in the right era. Mr. Rock Lobster, what's lighting up your tape out there in this very well-groomed market today, sir?
I just have to say, I know this isn't the show for it, but I did just fill the 2.5s for 20 cents. I thought I was going to sell the 2s. But
You did. I see. You know why? Because I mocked you. I said you're getting the hell out of. What were you going to sell the 2s for? Like 45 cents?
I thought I was going to sell the 2s for at least 40 cents, but I'm going 2.5.
2.5. Yeah, I'm doing that too. I was working them for 30 for the last week. By the way, this is an aside from our Options Oddities program where the Rock Lobster and I have some ongoing trades going on. This one happens to be listeners and everyone's favorite Chinese piece of garbage, New EDU. We were selling puts. We were selling puts of the 2.5 strike, Uncle Mike, for like almost 50 cents. They were pretty good. Then we discovered there was a reason why they're 50 cent big, because the stock sold off to 180 promptly. So we ended up owning the stock. So we've been attempting to wheel out of it ever since and getting a heck of a lot of juice to do it. So we haven't exactly been too motivated. I just went down, Mr. Rock Lobster. I was going to go to 20 cents. I was offered at 30. And I said, I'm going to go to 25 because I saw the 20 cent offer was vanishing pretty quick. And so I thought maybe if I get to 25, I can get 20 probably. Did you get filled at 20?
I did, sir.
All right. So I maybe I'll go. We'll see. I'm trying to be a little more greedy, but we shall see.
My goal is a fine bottle of wine per month out of this.
You missed our last oddities. I didn't tell you. I may have gotten a little greedy and EDU. I may have, instead of just selling the 2.5 calls last time for about 25 cents, I may have sold the quote unquote coverage straddle for about 75 cents. I'm just saying. I took a lot of that. I took that back off for not much left of it. I took off both legs pretty happily. So that was not a bad do, I got to say. They're paying a lot for that, quote unquote. If you're willing to put on more downside, they're willing to pay you.
Right. I think it at least at this point, but I don't. Well, we're not going to have oddities this week, but it feels like the bottom is in this business. There will be some business, and it's not what it was, but it's something. It's they got their teeth kicked in by the government in China, but hey,
yeah, I mocked that straddle for a while, and I said, you know what? Why am I not doing this? I'll take some. I agree with you. I think the floor is in, so I think the risk of we've already gotten back more than half of what the stock costs now, so it's not quite a freebie, but it's getting close to that. And so if I put on more, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I thought I'm going to juice it up just for the content for oddities. I was going to juice it up, and that straddle worked out pretty well. So I'm not angry at it anyway.
So you're not as angry at leading you into the dark hole that I did before. So you're okay.
Yeah, Mr. Uncle Mike. So he's twisting my arm into selling these puts. Says, come on, we got to sell these. So I go out and sell a 10 lot. He sells a 5 lot.
Oh, come on.
And then he gets a better fill than me. He got a penny better. It was mockery all around. I was not happy with it at all. That's another reason why I had to sell that coverage straddle, Andrew. I had to outjuice you a little bit on this trade.
Yes, and I think that was well done.
And we'll save the rest for oddities, but that is a good diagram. I'm going to go in and maybe look at my offer right now and see what I'm going to do with it while you're talking.
I know, and actually another one is DNN. I have to sell some 2.5 puts now. I'm trying to get an offer out there so I can get something sold for this one. So
2.5 puts.
I have a couple of these little stuff, but you know what?
2.5 puts or calls?
25 cents per 10 lot.
You're gonna sell 2.5 puts or calls? The 2.5 puts, you're gonna be
I'm trying to
pretty
sell
meaty.
in DNN. Actually, I got my stock got taken away at a. Oh, you know what that is that's my. I can just go buy the stock now. So my stock got taken away at effective price of 175 or 180, I think. Now it's trading 163. I'm just going to go buy the stock back. So this is my. It's a lot easier this way.
That's what I ended up doing.
I'll decide what to sell.
I had some underlying got taken away, and then when it rallied again, I said, I need to get back into this thing. So I sold some pretty meaty 2 puts. So I think I'm back in for somewhere around $1.70 or something like that. It's like $1.65 now. Yeah,
very reasonable. Very reasonable.
I don't hate that at all either. You can sell covered calls on this one all day too.
Yep. So I'm again, listeners. This is I don't know. This is what do old retired option guys do? They
they took the 20-cent offer out. Now it's gone. See, I knew it was going. So now I'm the first at 25. So I should hopefully get filled there. We'll see.
I think
my history of being the only offer or bid and not being filled, so that can happen.
And the anger and the umbrage you take.
It does enlist some rage in me. I will admit.
A little bit. So let's see. What am I? Am I filled here on 1,000? I'm filled. So I'm back in. I am back in Denison. So I'm good, and I will look for some calls to write again because I think this uranium thing is going to be. We got no choice. In the green energy world, we got no choice but to go green. As far as what I'm looking at, in case I missed it this morning, apparently Apple had no top, Nvidia had no top, and everything turned around. And I think that's because maybe people are thinking rates are going up again. So like amazing that they listen. And I lived through the 90s. I've lived through 2 pretty massive, actually 3 bull markets. I don't know how many bull markets. But there's no top, I believe, on stock prices when people want to buy them. That's it. They're going to go up, and you can short them at your apparel or do whatever you want to do. But Apple, I don't know what market cap they're looking for Apple because I think it's well over $2 trillion now. So I would just say, wow. It is pretty freaking big, $2.6 trillion. And I'm still trying to, I guess Tesla is the company that has got the biggest market cap making cars, electric cars. Apple isn't even going to make a car for 3 years to deliver a car. And that added another, $400 billion of market cap or something crazy like that, $200 billion. So all I can say is this whole technology, blah, 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 blah thing it's not stopping. It's not stopping anywhere close. So again, markets can rally for a long time. The fact that the Q was $200 or something in March of 2020 and it's $400 now, it doesn't matter. Because if folks want to buy it, they're going to buy it and it's going to keep going up. So what I will say, though, is this rally has not brought us a lower VIX number. So I think VIX feels like it's kind of pinned here. Definitely not a very fun trade anymore for me, just straight vol. And I'm looking more at just going back to just the index products because I just don't think it's going to move very much. And the reason why is we just have market is such a low realized vol. I mean, Mark and TOSAW, we've got a 6-7% realized vol in the SPX. The Qs are going straight up in one direction. So it's very hard for VIX to move a lot because we don't sell off. And we just kind of keep grinding up. And so, as a recipe for VIX, unless something drastically happens, we just got Powell in, it might go down. It could go down, but I just don't see it doing it. But anyway, that's my big observation for the day. Besides all our all the fun we're having with EDU.
Yes, you're getting your early preview, you get your taste. Not going to be around on Friday. Listen, this is your early taste of oddities. And for all of you who don't listen to oddities, there you go. It's a little bit of a sneak preview of all the fun, crazy names we're trading over there. They're printing 23 cents right now, Mr. Rock Lobster, the 2.5. So they're itching close to my 25-cent offer. So we shall see.
Filled. They just paid a quarter.
I saw a quarter trade, but I'm not filled. So I don't know. We'll see. Some algo scammed away ahead of me, even though I was clearly first at 25. But hey. that's a conversation for me and my broker. I saw they did print 25, so I should be filled. But I digress. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, while I go check my fills, what are you up to over there in the land of St. Charles?
Get the fills to pay the bills. Been waiting a while to say that one. So we do have Powell in for a second term, and so that is a little bit of certainty. And today we rallied in the morning till about roughly 11 o'clock Chicago time. S&P was up over 40, and then it sold off quite a bit. And then now it's starting to rally again, but nothing near what it was earlier in the day. So I think there's a lot of me that believes that because this is a shorter week, that weird things happen, as it's not going to be the typical volume that you normally have in a shorter week. So I'm not reading too much into the near-term price action of this. I mean, I am, but I'm not, because we did go to all-time highs, and then we went below them, and so now we're kind of by them, and so it's just kind of going all over the place for the time being. And so I can remember just with a lot of this happened kind of like this a year ago going into the Thanksgiving holiday week. And so it's something we definitely have to be aware of and have to look at, and just have an understanding that in holiday weeks, weird things happen. And to add to Andrew's point about him not thinking the VIX is going down, if it hasn't gone down yet, it's hard to believe it's going to anytime soon with all of the rally with which we've had in this market. It's just been a behemoth of a rally, so to speak. So it's hard to think that that's going to be the case. And then the other thing that I'm watching, we are having a sell-off in the 10-year note. Like you had said earlier, Mark, there might be concerns of inflation. And if that's the case, then, of course, the values of bonds will likely go down. And so maybe people, when they hear about or are thinking that Powell's going to continue to go through, that maybe they're concerned with inflation or that he might raise rates, and it might just be kind of an initial shock. But once again, there's a lot of weird things do typically happen on the shortened weeks like this when there's a holiday involved. So we have that. We have my beloved silver is down slightly on the day. And so with that, a lot of times, if a lot of people view the metals as an inflation hedge, and so, but that's down today on the news of Powell, and not necessarily on the news of Powell, but with the news of Powell, it is down. And so I'm just not sure that today's price action is really indicative of where larger trends are going to be over the course of the next months or years. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing today. And that is all.
It's also all from my orders. No fills here, Mr. Rocklap, sending me photos of like 5,000 lots getting filled ahead of me. I gotta go find out what's up with that. Crazy town. I'm still hanging there at 25 cents. Like a chump. All right, let's keep on rolling. Let's see if the markets are chumps or not today from a overall options volume perspective. And again, it kind of depends where you're looking. If you just tune in and look at VIX, you'd say, yeah, not a heck of a lot going on. There are only 131,000 contracts on the tape. And the ADV has now broken 400K in the wrong direction, back down to 394,000. Not that long ago, we were threatening 500,000 and even beyond that, and now back down to 394. Again, we are heading into the typically seasonally light period of the year. You know, mid to late December is kind of like mid to late August. Not a lot of paper on the tape. So that could be somewhat playing with it. But in general, that's not the case in the rest of the major indices, which is kind of interesting. SPY already blown the doors off, already at its ADV as we speak. It's at 4.5 million exactly right now. The ADV, 4.47 million. So it has exceeded its ADV already. So a far cry from what's going on in VIX land. Same deal in the SPX at 1.3 million. The ADV closing in on 1.5 million, 1.46 million out there. So the S almost doing a day's worth of paper right now as well. So a lot of action in the S&P 500. Is that the case in the NASDAQ as well? The answer is yes. 1.7 million contracts on the tape in the NASDAQ. The ADV, 1.55 or so million out there. So the S and the NASDAQ all doing pretty much a day's worth of paper already. And small caps, at least through the IWM lens, they're doing a pretty fair amount themselves. 584,000 contracts on the tape for small caps. Now, you know, if you listen, just in the last couple of weeks, that was the ADV not too long ago out there. It was somewhere in that 560, 570 range Now it's up to 818 because we have seen a remarkable small cap resurgence and then sell off over the course of the past couple of weeks. So that ADV has ticked up. So it's at what it previous ADV was a few weeks ago. Now this new level, it hasn't hit there yet, but given the amount of paper we're seeing today, it probably is going to get there soon. Let's look at the top 10. Another crazy, heavy, dense, active day. It cost you 343,000 contracts to break into the top 10, listeners. That shows you what kind of day it is when AMC is only number 10. 343,000 contracts for one half of the symbol twinology. Number 9, Palantir. Already up to 429,000. We're only at number 9, listeners. That's one of those kind of days. Number 8, Facebook / Meta / whatever the hell they call themselves these days. 477,000 contracts. Number 7, it's Neo. 506,000 contracts. Number 6, Lucid. Back out to the electric motors land we go. 554,000 contracts. Number 5, the other half of the symbol twinology. 577,000. I love when we coin phrases here on the show. Number 4, it's our old friend Ford, back over the 20 handle. At least it was when I checked it before showtime. 585,000 contracts on the tape for Ford. Number 3, yep, it's NVIDIA. They're hanging out up there these days. 859,000. That's a lot of paper for NVIDIA. Number 2, it's Tesla. Well over 1 million, 1.25 million contracts. That probably would usually be enough for number 1, if not pretty close to it. But Apple on another level since this last week or so out there. Over 2.25, 2.28 million contracts. It's like all of a sudden Apple is getting back the gusto that it may have lost over the last couple of months, and a lot of these other meme names are kind of coming at it for the top spot. These days, Apple's like, hold my beer, kids. Let me show you how it's done. It's just putting up numbers left and right. Today, already north of 2.25 million here as we're coming into the latter portion of this segment. Really quickly, let's run through some earnings. There are still some on the docket, even though it is a truncated holiday week. We got Zoom today. Tomorrow, we got Dick's Sporting Goods and Best Buy. It's that time of year to talk about retailers. Best Buy in the hunt there with Black Friday. Dollar Tree, Uncle Mike's favorite fashion outlet, buys all of his clothes there. HP and Gap, Nordstrom and Dell, all there tomorrow. Wednesday, we got John Deere. Then obviously the rest of the week, not much popping off here. Let's go really quickly. Hot off the presses, earnings move results, and earnings season reports, and earnings trade reports, I might add. So you got getting a 4-pack now over there at theoptionsinsider.com. Let's look at some of them really quickly. The season back up to the green, listeners. The season looking robust right now. We've got week 1, 109%, so firmly in the green. Week 2, 59%, so firmly in the red. Week 3, 93%, so right on the cusp there of being green. Week 4, 120%, the best week of the season, the best week we've seen in quite some time. Week 5, 103%, and then week 6, 109%. So the last 3 weeks of the season have all been in the green. So that averages out to about 103%. So we're back in the green, listeners. We're back to outperforming. You made a whopping 3% if you bought that mythical basket of straddles I'm always talking about out there. But still, a good sign, perhaps, that those folks who like a little bit of juice in their earnings, they like their earnings to actually matter and actually have some material impact on an underlying and be tradable. That's a good sign for all of you. Also got updated earnings trades reports here. Looks like they put on they put on 2 straddles and 2 calendars. So we got 4 names here that are putting, I'll let you check out the reports for yourselves here, but we got 4, they're entering, looks like, they're entering 4 straddles, or it should say 2 straddles and 2 calendars here. No exits today, but they give you all the updates, exactly what they put them on for, what the name is they're trading it in, what the vol was, if they exit it, when they exit it. So you can kind of get a sense. And this is pretty much breaking down long calendars, short calendars, long straddles, and short straddles. So if the earnings move results, and earnings season reports all for free wasn't enough for you, the folks at ORAT, in their Christmas spirit, have added a new report for you completely for free, the earnings trades report. So you want to see how particular strategies are breaking down in certain names. There you go. Really quickly, because we got to move on. Let's go out to some earnings move reports right now. We've got Zoom popping off after the bell today. They're at 251, pretty much even as of this report. They're pricing in 28.25. In the past, they moved 33.31. Maybe the bloom coming off the rose for Zoom. We shall see. Best Buy, they are tomorrow before the bell. 136.13 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $9.50. In the past, they moved 8.83. So a little bit extra juice in Best Buy. It's that time of year, might be warranted. And plus, These names have underperformed of late. Dick's, also the 23rd before the bell. 138 and about a half is where they were trading. 1560 is what they're pricing in. In the past, they moved 1177. That's a lot of extra juice for the sporting goods category. Interesting. Dell, also after the bell tomorrow. 55 even is where they were trading. They're pricing in 3.25. In the past, they moved 2.25. So that's a lot of extra juice for Dell as well. Interesting. Hewlett Packard, same segment there. 23rd after the bell, 31 and about a half is where they were trading. They're pricing in about 210. In the past, they moved to $1.60. So extra juice there as well. Extra juice appears to be the order of the day. Let's go to John Deere really quickly, too. Then we got to keep on rolling. They're on the 24th before the bell. 346.15 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 14.20. In the past, they moved 13.96. They just settled some big labor dispute over there. So maybe that's why the vol is going to be pretty much unched. But we shall see out there as we keep on rolling. It is time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get weird. Let's get wild. Perhaps we'll get whimsical. Let's unleash the Eye of Sauron. We're going back, Mr. Rock Lobster. We're going back, not in time, but back to a name we've talked about a lot lately. They're a frequent offender back again. This is Ballard Power Systems, ticker symbol BLDP, BLDP. Let's see. Right, trading right now, 16.15 or so, off about 12 cents, or about 0.75% today. Over the past year, it's been an interesting, torrid year for them. A year ago, it was trading 21.5, so much higher. And then they got even higher. They got up to 42 and about a quarter on February 9th. And then they sold off promptly again to 13.83. And that was back in May. So quite the torrid first half of the year. Then they kind of been drifting in this mid-teens range pretty much out throughout the rest of the year. It's like the highest they got was almost 19 and change back in early November. And they've given that up now to 16.14 where they are again right now. So kind of hovering at the lower end of its 52-week range. We talked about this one a few times in the past. Let's see what's lighting up our tape today, Mr. Rock Lobster. It's your old friend, the line in the sand put. In this case, we got the Dees 14. So it's 16.14 right now. Someone's blasting away at the 14s 26,110 times. They're not playing around. They're hunting for big game here. That's a 60 vol, if you are wondering. They sold them for 11 cents. They actually got a penny price improvement. Say that 5 times fast. They were dime bid. They sold them for 11 cents, 26,000 times. So obviously that dime bid was good for size. They actually sold them when the stock was higher, 16.75. So this may be a bit of an ouchie for them because they're going to fail the first Rock Lobster test of a good trade, which is it bid in your face the minute after you sell it. And the answer to this one is going to be a resounding yes. It's like our friends over there at Oras. They run their own scans. They also noticed this trade as well. They had Ballard ranked as their third highest volume ratio name over there at 3.4 times to their average volume of 8,100. They had done about almost 28,000 by the time they profiled, and they had calls to puts at 1,300 calls versus 26,000 puts. That's a 0.1 call to put out there. So interesting stuff. Mr. Rock Lobster, they sold a bunch of puts. They drew a line in the sand, and these puts are instantly bid in their face. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but what are your thoughts on these cheapy puts in our old friend Ballard Power?
Well, I think, you know what, I remember calling this stock Baldy for some reason. I don't know why, but so again, I think the strangest thing is that they trade 11 cents and then they're bid 20 cents in their face, like right afterward. That I find odd.
That's aggressive.
Like, wow, you sold those for 11. So what that means is somebody is pretty bitter they didn't get the show for the 26,000 for 11 cents.
Well, obviously that bid was good for size. They gave them a price improvement on the dime bid, and then you're right. Then they wanted more, and they're like, okay, the hell with you. I'm here now. What do you got? That's funny. Yeah. You're right. So there were some hurt feelings. It's not just me that has the hurt feelings, Mr. Rock Lobster. These brokers and these customers get hurt feelings too, and they don't get filled.
Yes. I mean, the 20-cent bid is not big, right? But, there's a 15-cent bid for probably a few thousand at least. So, I think Mr. 11 cents is feeling, you know, I think a little abused at this point. So, will this probably make money? I have to say, so it's right at the expected. The straddle's $2, 16 straddle's $2. What's also what I would say is, so I'm just going to say this trade is not my favorite one of these. I think this is a pretty aggressive trade. The stock is showing some considerable volatility after the big climate summit is over. Basically from $20 down here to 16. So it wouldn't surprise me for them to get a tickle on these puts. Although I'm trying to look at, I don't think Ballard has seen 14. It has seen the 15s recently. I'm just going to say to the listeners, it would not surprise me. Yeah, 13 was the low here going into the whole climate summit. It would not surprise me if this set of puts got a tickle, as in, they could potentially be put. I'm just going out there and saying that right now, because that 15-cent bid, people are smelling a little bit of meat out there. That's only a 58 vol and a $15 stock. That 11-cent sale is just dirt cheap. So I think on a relative value basis, this is nowhere near as good as some of the puts that we've seen sold before.
Yeah, this one's not blowing my skirt up. You know what else isn't getting tickled, Mr. Rock Lobster, is my 25-cent offer. They're now 20 at 25. 40,000 of these 2.5 calls have traded today, and not a tickle. Not a tickle for me. So I knew that would bring a smile to your face. 40,000 of these things have traded. God darn it. 20-cent bid. Now your calls are bid in your face, though, so they're failing your first the Rock Lobster's first test as well, as we keep on rolling. We'll see by the end of the show if I am filled.
I don't know if the rule's the same on a covered call. I think.
Now we're changing the Rock Lobsters. I see how it goes over there. Moving the goalposts is the Rock Lobster as we keep on rolling. Our next victim here, listeners, is a newcomer, I believe, to the Odd Block. This is Annaly Capital Management, ticker symbol NLY. It's another REIT. These REITs are a dime a dozen. This one's also in mortgage real estate. So another mortgage REIT. They're out of Maryland. Or out of New York City, but based in Maryland. One of those weird things. Let's see. They're trading $8.42 right now, and NLY as a ticker. A year ago, it was trading $8 exactly. So looks like they had a kind of a negligible year, but the chart actually had a nice run. They got up to about 964 on everyone's favorite day, listeners. Actually, one day after. This was June 9th. They popped up on June 8th, and they continued going on June 9th. So June 8th and 9th. Yet another one of these weird names that had its apex right around June 8th. And then immediately sold off again. By July 19th, it was trading 8.25 again. What is the magnetism of that day, June 8th? I do not know. Then it rallied again to 8.90 on September 27th and sold off instantly again to 8.42 and back to where it is right now, right around 8.39. So it's been mostly hovering in this range all year, with the exception of that crazy spike up to about 964 on June 8th and 9th. What do we see today? Someone deciding to come in and maybe thinking that range is about to break. They're not selling the puts this time, Mr. Rock Lobster. They are buying them. They came in and lifted the offer for 10,000 of the Jan 8 puts. They paid 17 cents for these bad boys, so that's about a 19.5 ball. It's not nothing. It's not $10 either. It's not meefy by any means. The stock was pretty much exactly right here, 840, and there are no earnings. The next earnings is on February 9th. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, we got someone buying puts for a nice, refreshing change. This time paying 17 cents 10,000 times, thinking Annaly is about to break the 8 strike. It broke briefly a year ago on November 3rd. It got down to 781, but since then has never broken it. Someone thinking this thing's getting back down to at least its 52-week low of 781. What say you, sir?
This one, again, this is a interest rate sensitive REIT. So I have to say, the interest rate stuff is not looking like, I think they're going to start raising rates this next year. Powell's staying in. They got to do something. Because it's crazy town, quite frankly, I believe. So they have to do something. And I don't think rising rates are great for those mortgage REITs. So It would not surprise me. I don't even think that's actually that bad of a purchase, to be honest. The only difference is like how these stocks actually move. But I think that's a reasonable put purchase. I think they would be lucky to double their money though on this one. But that's just my thought on where this stock could go, because like liquidity providers are pretty good at pricing these REITs. They're pricing that 8 straddle at, and mostly because the calls in the money is about 56 cents. So, I guess it could fall apart. Not a terrible purchase, not a terrible purchase, but I think they'd be lucky to double their money on this.
I think that would be a huge home run if they doubled their money on these bad. I'd be very impressed. Speaking of which, we have a Luigi in the chat saying the reason everything rallies on June 8th is because that's his birthday. He is the source of magnetism. Well, happy belated birthday there. That makes as much sense as any other reason I've heard for why June 8th is this amazingly strong market day. Everyone's rallying to celebrate Luigi's birthday. Well said there, sir. Let's go out to, got one more here to pay off really quickly. We got to start emptying the bucket. We can't just keep filling it every show or it's just going to overwhelm us all. Let's go back out. Not that long ago, Mr. Rock Lobster, about a week ago, November 15th, we talked about some line in the sand puts. Pretty late in the game, line in the sand puts. These were in Confluent Inc., ticker symbol CFLT. At the time, we profiled the stock. Let's see. Well, we profiled about 7,900 to be precise, of the NOVE 75 puts. Paper came in and blasted away at them. They were 30 at 65 when this trade went up. It was about a 94 vol, so pretty rich. And they sold. The stock was 85.12 when they put these up. So the stock had to drop $10. I think I recall this one. This one was one of those crazy rallier ones, was it not? Let me just see. Well, this one's had a nice run. And this one was kind of one of those ones where I've said of late, this seems like an interesting new trend where we see these massive rallies and then see people just diving in afterwards. It's not to buy calls for the rally to continue. They sell puts. So it's interesting. It's a weird one. It's a bit of a new wrinkle on this. Usually we see people playing in the calls and then doing so maybe against a covered position. This time, perhaps risking some fire. And this time they went 10 handles out of the money. They sold the 75 puts about 8,000 times. Stock was 85.12. Let's see. And this one, Mr. Rock Lobster, if they had extended it a week, it might have been a little bit more dicey because the stock right now is 76.5. So they're flirting with that strike. It's down almost 10 handles from where they sold the puts. But they expired last week, obviously. And the stock closed at 79.75 last Friday. So they were still good at the time. These puts obviously went out worthless. They never really got touched. It's like paper made a little over 300 grand, about 316,000 on this one. Not bad for a week's worth of work. That definitely would fit in your girlfriend's Ferrari system of measure, sir.
It is. Well, it's not precise, but it is remarkable how that is an amount that seems to it does seem to be an accurate way to reflect the amount that most of this line in the sandpaper does, how it does go up. I'm just saying, it's around the same every time.
It is impressive. It's like June 8th. Something's with June 8th, and something's with that size of one lot of Ferraris out there for our trade. I'll take a one lot, please. As we keep on rolling, it's that time, listeners. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody. Time for Uncle Mike to dispense some options, wit, and or wisdom. Uncle Mike, your strategy today, it's not something I'm very familiar with. How to react to a losing strategy. This is not something I personally experienced, so I'll have to live through you vicariously, sir.
Of course, we understand that. So oftentimes people talk about how they want to do things risk-free or with a high probabilities, things like that. And that's very understandable. But no matter what you do, it is impossible to trade without having some type of a losing trade at the time. And so what I want to go through today is talk about the right way and the wrong way to react to it when it does happen. Now, I have two signs that I have in my office. Actually, I need to put them back up. I've been rearranging some things. But what I try and do, it's always been very near and dear to me ever since my athletic days. I have two sayings: whenever something good happens and whenever something bad happens. The first thing is whenever something good happens, and I tap the sign, it says, "Woe to the complacent." Now, I'm not trying to turn this into Sunday school, but this is a lesson applicable to people of all faiths, even of no faith. And that is that biblically speaking, oftentimes in the Old Testament, God would say, woe to the adulterers, woe to the thieves, woe to this, that, and the other. But one thing that he also woes is woe to the complacent. Now, why do we woe the complacents? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the second that you make a good trade, you think you're going to do it every time, and every one of us is guilty of that. You have that feeling in some way, shape, or form whenever it happens. And so that's why I always tell to myself, woe to the complacent, because complacency is something that can really hurt you. It causes you like, you know what, I'm doing pretty good at this. Why don't I put a little bit more money into this? Or, you know what, I think I'm doing pretty good at this. Why don't I count on this for more income than I normally do? Or whatever the case may be. And so you get to that point. And that's not only true in trading, it's also true in many aspects of life in general. So upon a winning trade, just be careful and have an understanding and have that understanding that it's not going to be that way every time. Now, the other saying that I tell myself when I have something bad happen is how you react when you lose determines how soon it will be until you win again. Now, what does that mean? Well, of course, there's ways with which you can react to defeat. You can think, oh, ho-hum, woe is me. There's no way this is ever going to work. I'm in bad shape. I should never do this ever again, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can give yourself the illusion of saying, oh, it was those darn market makers' fault, or, oh, that stupid broker of mine didn't fill me. That's about as stupid as when athletes talk about, oh, the referees lost it for us today. Well, they may have lost you one play, but they didn't lose the game for you. So with that, how do you act when you lose? That's what I want to go through today. So the first thing that I always tell myself is, well, what can I learn from this? Is this just a simple case of I've been right X amount of times, I'm going to be wrong X amount of times, and this is just one of those times that I'm wrong? Most of the time it is. However, I still like to ask myself, why did this not work out? What did I not see? What went wrong for me on this specific instance? And so I'll ask myself, well, did I break my own rules? That's the first thing that you got to ask. And if the answer is yes, then quite honestly, the best thing you can do is just punch yourself in the face. No, just kidding. Don't do that. But shame on you. You broke your rules, and you deserve to lose if you break your trading rules. Second thing that I look at is what happened in terms of the system itself. Did I stay within my system of rules? Did I maintain risk the way with which I'd like to? Did I make sure that I put the right amount of money on the table that is within the system of trading that I do? Did I get out when I was supposed to? And then, of course, when I got out, the market reversed on me and it went the way I wanted it to go in the first place. What happened? Is there a flaw in the system? And if the answer is no, then oftentimes I need to go back to, well, it's just one of those situations to where you're not going to win 100% of all trades, and you just have to deal with it. You got to be tough, put on your big boy pants, whatever analogy you want to use, and get back at it. If you are concerned, if you are feeling like there might be something wrong with it, the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to keep trading, but with a lesser amount of money. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that you're on the borderline. Well, I may have broken my rules, or did I break my rules? Or is this system kind of questionable? Or you're kind of in that hemming and hawing type of thing. I recommend that you keep going, but just with a significantly less amount of money. It keeps you in the game. It keeps you working and doing what you want to do, but just with less capital. Now, if you are at a point to where you feel your system this just isn't working, then you just need to stop. Don't trade. Stop for a while. Take a deep breath. Figure out what you're doing wrong, and then get back at it. So those are the stages with which I think you need to really have an understanding of how to react when things don't go your way. And that is the strategy block for Thanksgiving week.
All right, we got a couple minutes. Not going to have a time on Thursday, so let's do a real quick mail block here.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, first off, we have our question of the week here this week. And I talked about the answer to our last week once on vol view, so check it out if you didn't hear that, listeners. But you guys chose Nat Gas, and that was actually the winner. Nat Gas was at about 30-day at-the-money vol of about 96%, well above everything else. VIX was somewhere in between 65 to 70-odd range at the time. These are 30-day at-the-money options now, listeners. Tesla was at about 62%, and Bitcoin vol was at about 78%. So you might think something else was the winner, but it actually was Nat Gas out there. This week's question, the shortened week, holiday week, we thought, let's be thankful. What are you guys most thankful for? Which market development or trend or et cetera are you guys most thankful for? We gave you 4 choices, but as always, you guys are welcome to send in whatever it is, float your boat. We gave you 4 choices: options volume explosion, the meme stock madness, the crypto rampage, or the bull market breakout. And so far right now, we just went live before showtime. The crypto rampage is winning with 44.4%, followed by the options volume explosion with 33.3%. And the tie for number 3 there with the meme stock madness and the bull market breakout, both at about 11%. Get in there. That'll run throughout the rest of the week here. And in terms of questions, that's why I love our listeners. Very keen-eyed, very keen-eared. Mr. Unlimited chiming in our chat saying, is Apple starting to do that crazy paper thing again, where we have 500,000 plus calls, just a few strikes in the weekly expiring this week? When I saw that Apple explosion, I should have looked into that myself. That's a good catch there, Mr. Unlimited, because the answer is yes. I pulled that up just a few minutes ago. And yes, the resounding ton of today's paper, I mentioned that we were over 2 million contracts. We have 250,000 of the 165s expiring this Friday, followed by number 2, 127,000 of the 170s expiring this Friday. Number 3, 114,000 of the 160s expiring this Friday. Number 4, 103,000 of the 160 puts also expiring this Friday. Number 5, so the entire top 5, all going out this Friday. We have nearly 100,000 of the 167.5 calls. So you add all those up, you're talking almost 700,000 contracts just in those top 5 there. So the answer to your question, and a very good point there, Mr. Unlimited, is yes. It is a lot of this crazy near-dated paper again. I think we need to start digging into Apple a little bit again, seeing what's afoot out there, listeners, because, we're getting that weird explosion of crazy weekly paper, which does explain why they're just blowing the doors off our top 10 most actives this week. Another one really quickly. This is just a fun one. This comes from John J. Law. I also love when people take a shot at the Rock Lobster, which is always fun. John J. Law says, love the shows. Great content and some good humor. I like the 80s wrestlers music. Just one complaint. Please buy the Rock Lobster a new mic, because all you hear is a muffled wah, wah, wah. Well, you're right. He does need some new hardware. Maybe we'll help him out with that. But also, I will say this. Mr. Rock Lobster, I will give you umbrage, but I will also take some myself. Because over the last couple of weeks, something got changed in the settings here somewhere in the studio. I have not been that happy with the guest audio. But it's been driving me crazy. I'm trying to figure out what setting got changed. Because you're right, it was a little muffled. It sounded like some guests were coming through a tin can, and it was universal across all of our shows. Driving me crazy. I planned to spend the second half of this week when we were off tearing everything apart, because you never know. There's so many systems here. Just it could be something as simple as one wire is a little bit loose, and that's causing the issue. So reseating everything, checking all the settings. Also, we have 1 million machines in here, 1 million computers. There's been updates on all of them over the last month or so. That usually maybe changes the setting. So I think that is what was it. We found it. We found what setting was changed as a result of that update. And everything sounds like it's back to normal with this show. So that's a good sign. So we will take some of that umbrage. But Mr. Rock Lobster, what do you say to, what was his name? John J. Law here, who says, you sound like a big bowl of wah, 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 sir. You sound like a parent from a Charlie Brown cartoon.
So apparently the problem is not with me per se, since I do about 5 webinars a day, probably at Option Pit, so I'm actually getting blamed for studio issues.
Well, no. I will take some of that, but in general, I think we could turn your audio up to 11. Yes, that could be done. So his complaint is legit, but I will, in the spirit of the season, I will take some of that just over the last week or so.
Okay. Maybe I will get a different microphone, but anyway, you should see the setup Sebastian has now. he is going big time. He's going broadcast.
Oh. He still sounds like he's coming at us through a tin can.
I try to look for something, but that requires me to get out of my house and drive down the driveway, which, wasn't a fan before COVID. I'm even less of a fan now of actually going to get something.
Well, you'll be a fan of this, Mr. Rock Lobster, as I put on our end of show music here. There we go. We'll do a combo around the block and what you're watching. You'll be a fan of this, Mr. Rock Lobster. This will put a smile on your face. I am not filled on my two halves. And I was thinking about, Malcolm Mack was talking, I was like, maybe I shouldn't get greedy. There's that small bid for the 20 cents. I should blast. I saw someone got 23 cents. Obviously, their price improving. So I would have got 23 cents if I blasted off. But I didn't. I wanted to finish the show off. And now that bid is gone, and they're 15 at 20 again. So I did not get filled, Mr. Rock. So that at least will put a smile on your face. I know you enjoy when I miss them. Now I decided not to be greedy. I'm offered at 20 like everybody else, like all the rest of the sheep. But I digress. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you watching for the rest of this truncated holiday week? And if folks want to hit you up, where should they go? What should they do?
What am I watching to see if we do get a break in vol? It's always interesting. It's always important when the vol breaks because that's a change in expectation. So we've got Powell is in, and we got to wait till the rate thing settles and see if we get a break after that. So for me, that's a big thing. Also, can NVIDIA and Apple and all these stocks just continue to fly? I think there's going to be some interesting opportunities here going into the end of the year there. So I'm looking at that. And other than that, everybody have a good Thanksgiving. OptionPit.com memberships. I'm also redoing VIX and VXX Made Easy. So if you want to learn how to trade those products, you can buy 1 year of Vol Edge. And we used to charge actually quite a bit for these webinars, but in this case, you can get I'm redoing VIX Made Easy and VXX Made Easy, plus you get a year of Vol Edge for just a small premium relative. So you actually get quite a good deal. You get a whole new educational series inside. So it's a good deal if you want to learn how to trade vol, learn how the products work, and not be surprised by how they work. So there you go, OptionPit.com. And I wish I had that link for you, but you call Ted 888-TRADE-01.
Call Ted 888-TRADE-01. Tell them the Rock Lobster sent you, because why not? All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. Folks want to check out all your cool content on the YouTubes, on the old Twitters, or they want to just hit you up directly. And also, what are you watching for this week? Have at it, sir.
All right, so if you'd like to work with a financial advisor who delves in the option product, if it's appropriate for clients, in fact, I'm in it very frequently for the client base with which I have, feel free to reach out to me, and you can find me online at my website, stcharleswealth.com. In terms of the content I put out, just put out my first video on YouTube. What is a call option? Many more will come, so subscribe to me on YouTube, St. Charles Wealth Management. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. In terms of what I am watching, quite frankly, watching what my family's doing. I'm managing risk with things this week, but I'm not making any major moves based on movements of this week. Of course, I could end up making a major move if something happens, but I'm not putting a lot of stock into what the moves are this week. And last but not least, my annual Thanksgiving advice. You should have sold your pumpkin futures by now because it's past Halloween. I would definitely start getting long Christmas tree futures, but whatever you do, avoid turkey because it has no future after this week. And that is my thing for the day.
Pure gold. You want more of those bits of wisdom, listeners? At Mike TOSAW on the old Twitters. Look him up, St. Charles Wealth on YouTube. stcharleswealth.com is the place to go to learn more about all of it. We got to get on out of here, but if you want more in your lives, stay tuned, have a beverage, relax. We'll be back in a little less than an hour. Guess who's joining me on the crypto hot seat this week? Yes, the once and future Dr. Vix. He's delving into crypto. He's super excited. He asked if he could come on the crypto rundown to break down some crypto vol and everything else. And so, nice folks that we are, we said yes. So we're going to be talking some cool vol and skew and everything else coming up in a little less than an hour with the once and future Dr. Vix himself. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow. Pro Q&A session. You guys enjoyed it a lot the last time, so we're bringing them back by popular demand. Mr. John Cherry, the guy who pretty much heads up everything options over there at Northern Trust. You want to know what the big accounts, the size money, literally, the big funds they execute on behalf of a lot of large funds over there as well. What the heck are they using options for? What are they up to right now? You can find out tomorrow if you're there in our pro Q&A session. You can ask those questions directly. We open the spigot directly to you, listeners, and allow you to drink from the font of knowledge that is our pro Q&A session. Wednesday, you're going to get live to tape, not live. They've already been recorded. You guys heard them last week. If you're in the secret club, you will hear your double dose of education Wednesday, OPR, and options boot camp. Then, of course, we're off on Thursday, off on Friday. See you back here next Monday for another episode of The Option Block.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.